All right, so indicator 5.2 is slope intercept form, okay? And I think that this will be a review as far as the actual form itself. And then we'll kind of do several things with it this week as we are in this indicator. So first of all, what is slope intercept form? It's y equals mx plus b. Okay, y equals mx plus b. And the m, we already know m stands for slope. And the b is the y-intercept. And we know from yesterday that the y-intercept is the point at which your line crosses the y-axis. So in order to write an equation, you'll notice those first directions there. It says write the slope-intercept form of the equation. What do we need in order to write the slope-intercept form? Well, it's in the name. We need the slope and we need the intercept. Now notice, and I don't know if you can see my colors very well, everything in black is part of the standard equation. It's going to always just be there just like that. You're always going to have a generic x and a generic y in y equals mx plus b. They stand for every xy coordinate that along your line, and there's an infinite number of them because lines go on forever and ever. So that x and the y is kind of standing in the gap for every xy coordinate on your line. So it stays generic. The m and the b are the only two things that you will fill in, so that when you're done with your equation, you'll always have y equals some slope, you'll always have an x, and then you'll fill in your intercept. Okay. So to write an equation in slope-intercept form, what do we need? We need an m and we need a b, right? Those are the two things that we need in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form. On this first example, how do we find the m? Well, the difference between this assignment and yesterday's assignment is yesterday's assignment, when you were finding the slope, the homework assignment gave you the points for you to drop down and count from. Here, you got to make your own. Yes. I would sketch you you can either sketch this one or sketch this one. You just make sure you have one example in your notes. Okay. It doesn't matter which one you do. If you want to listen through it once and then sketch the second one, or vice versa, I don't care. And when I say sketch your graph, don't get fancy. Just give yourself an x and a y coordinate, or x and a y axis, and then some slashes. So because this particular graph doesn't give us 2 points, we need to add 2 points to our graph. But the really important thing when you're finding slope is you need points that are right on an intersection, right? Right on an intersection. So if you'll notice, and I'm going to blow this up kind of big, don't put this in your notes, because this right here is not a good point, because see how it's actually not really right on the intersection. This one is not right on the intersection. Okay, this one right here is not on an intersection. You only want to put a point where your line crosses a perfect intersection. So in this case, it would be right here and down here. Those are the only 2 points on my whole line that I see where it crosses right on a perfect intersection. Now that I have 2 points identified, now I can find my slope by counting like we did yesterday. Negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my y, change in y's, is -7. And then I turn the corner, right? And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. And so my slope is -7/5. My y-intercept, or my b, is where does my line cross the y-axis? Well, it crosses the y-axis right up here, right? So that means that my y-intercept is right here at 5. +5. Okay, so now I have my m and my b, and that's all you need to write an equation, because you have y equals, that's standard. Your m gets plugged in, your x is generic, and then your b is a +5, so you put +5. And that is the answer. That is writing an equation in slope-intercept form given the graph. Okay. Now, you only have to have one example down in your notes. So if you just want to watch this one, that's fine. First thing I'm going to identify is I'm going to identify two good points to choose. So I'm going to use this point right here and this point right here. Okay, those are two good points that are right in an intersection. Then I'm going to count. Remember, I need my M and my B. Those are the two bits of information I have to have. My slope is -2. Now it's over 1, but I'm just going to leave it -2. My B is down here at -4. And anytime you're writing something in slope-intercept form and you need to find the information yourself, I would always do this right here. Give yourself an M equals and a B equals. It's really going to help you remember that those are the two bits of information you need. All right, so now I have my M and my B. I simply write Y equals my M, the generic X. Now for my B, notice it's -4. So I'm just going to write -4. Don't write plus a -4. That just makes it messy. Okay. Yes. Yeah. All right, so that's how you write a equation in slope-intercept form when you're given a graph. Now we're going to, these are super, super hard. No, they're not. Not at all. You only need one example in your notes. You need an M and you need a B. What are we given? We're given an M. We're given a B. No math, no calculations required. We need an M and a B. We're given an M and a B. So the answer, write an equation in slope-intercept form. Generic Y equals the M, generic X. My B is a +4, so it's +4. Okay. When you're given the M and the B, that's the easiest ones of all because you don't have to do anything. Here, you don't have to write this one in your notes because you only need one of each, but I'm given an M, I'm given a B, I'm going to identify them. My answer, Y equals, my M is 2, my generic X, my B is -5, so -5, and there's my answer. Okay, those are the easiest. All right, we're going to do this one real quick. So the directions are the same. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. I like to write it sometimes above myself, above my problem, just to remind myself what's my goal, right? My goal is Y equals MX plus B. In indicator 3, we practice solving for different variables, right? No matter where they're at in the equation, we know we can solve for a variable. Here we need to solve for the Y, but we need our answer. Our Y is going to be by itself on the left because we're solving for the Y. Our answer on the right needs to be in a good order because we want it to be an MX plus B. So I'll show you that right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to distribute because we always get rid of parentheses before we start moving stuff around. So on the left, it stays Y plus 1. And on the right, we have -2 times X, which is -2X. And -2 times -2 is +4. And then our last step is to move that 1. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, leaving Y equals -2X, +4 minus 1 is +3. I've got it Y equals, check. I have my X value before my kind of a lone number there. So I've got it in Y equals MX plus B. Now it doesn't in this assignment, but it will in future assignments. So always pay attention to the directions. But if you are asked to identify the slope in the y-intercept, it's easy, just pick them out, all right? M equals -2, B equals +3. You don't have to in this assignment, but if you're ever asked to identify the slope in the intercept, just pull them out of the equation where the M and the B are, okay? I'm not going to worry about number 5. That's about as easy as it gets. You just add 3 to both sides, but I do want to do one like this that's a fraction. All right, so like I said before, first thing is always to distribute because you want to get rid of parentheses before you start moving anything around. So y minus 4 stays the same right now. -6/5 times x, just leave it -6/5x, right? Because we know that our mx, we need that m can be a fraction. That's no problem. Now, if you need to out to the side, that's fine, but you're also going to take that -5x times the 5 as well, because you need to distribute that fraction into both terms in the binomial. And the 5s cancel out, and you're left with -6. So taking -6/5 times that +5 leaves me a -6. And then the last step is always to, if there's anything to move it. And I'm left with y equals -6/5x, which that's fine. My slope can be a fraction. And then -6 plus 4 is -2. And again, if I was to ask, what's our slope here? Anybody? -6/5. What's my y-intercept here? -2. Okay. All right. So now we get into a little bit, it's just a little bit more work. It's not harder, but it's a little bit more work. Notice our directions are still the same. Your directions for all of this indicator are going to be the same. Write the slope intercept form of the equation. Keep in mind what we need. We need an m and we need a b, right? Those are the two things that we need in order to write our y equals mx plus b. I'm given the m right here. M equals 2. So I can already fill that in without any math. But I'm not given the y-intercept. So remember when I said in y equals mx plus b, the y and the x represent the infinite number of coordinates on our line. Well, we're given one of those coordinates. We're given the xy coordinate right here that's on our line of -3, -1. Because we're given that information, we can, it's kind of like, I really like indicator 5 for me. This is just the kind of math I like because it's like a puzzle. You're given clues. You got to take the clues that you're given, and then you have to figure out your end answer, which in this case is writing a slope intercept form. So I know I need an M. I know I need a B. I'm not given a B, but I know I've got clues in here that'll help me find my B. So how you find them? Well, you look at your equation where there's an X. You can plug a -3 because I know that X is on my line. And where there is a Y in my equation, I can plug a -1 because I know that that -1 represents one of the Y's on my line. Well, in math, if you have 3 of the 4, you can solve for the 4th, right? So if I plug in -1 for Y, and I was given my M as 2, and I'm given one of the X's on my line is a -3, and then plus B, I don't know my B, but because I now have numbers for everything else, I can solve for B. So -1 equals 2 times -3 is -6 plus B. And then I want to get B by itself because that's what I'm trying to solve for. So I'm going to add 6 and add 6. And I end up with B equals -1 minus 6 is -7. Now I'm going to go back up into my blank space up there. Remember I said I needed an M and a B, and I'm going to put a -7 in for my B now. Did I mess my math up? I added 6 up. I see what I did. Come get candy. Those of you who had your hand up. I see what I did. I added 6 to one side and then subtracted it from the other. And you know what's funny is when I saw the -7, I thought, I don't think that's what I got first hour. Good catch, guys. All right. So I've got -1 plus 6, which is +5. That's what I got first hour. I think that's the right answer. Now I have my M and my B. This is all a lot of work, but I'm still not to my answer because what was it my instructions told me? Write the slope intercept form. So this was just all of the work to get the M and the B. Now that I have the M and the B, my actual answer is y equals mx plus b. Plugging in my M and my B. Okay. Now, again, you only need one example in your notes. So if you just want to put your pencil down and just kind of watch me run through another one, you certainly can. Because I'll kind of run through it a little bit faster than the first time, but I'm going to do the same thing. I've got an X and a Y here that go on my line, and I have an M. So I'm going to take y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to plug in everything I know. My y here is a -2. My m is a 5. My x is a 3. And I don't know my b. Remember, I'm trying to find my m and my b, and I'm given my m. -2 equals 5 times 3 is 15 plus b. I'm going to subtract 15 and subtract 15. And I get -17 equals b. I'm going to come up here where my b is, and I'm going to put -17. Now I've got all the information I need. Now I can actually answer my problem, which is generic y equals my m generic x minus my, or I'll put my b in there, which in this case is -17. Okay, use your clues, get your m and your b, because you always need your m and your b to write it in mx plus b. All right, so in this case, this is called standard form, and we'll learn more about this at the end of the week. But when you have your x and your y together on one side of the equation, it's called standard form. But look at the instructions. Write it in slope-intercept form. So again, if you need a reminder, what's your goal? So this is just simple algebra. I need to move that 6x. I need to move the 6x over to the right because I notice my mx needs to be over there. So I'm going to subtract 6x and subtract 6x. Now, when I do that, it's gone from the left now, which is great. I'm left with y equals. This is where order matters. Because I'm purposely putting it in mx plus b, I need to write whatever has the x attached to it first. So on the right side of the equation, I currently have a 0 and I have a -6x. I'm going to write the -6x first to keep it in the right form. -6x. Now, here's the thing. This is technically okay. This is the cleaned up version that you'll probably see on like a multiple choice. You don't have to put the +0, but if you're asked what's the y-intercept and all you're given is this, you've got to know that the +0 is secretly tacked onto the end of it. Okay. On this one, okay, I want to get the y by itself. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that x. So I'm going to minus x and minus x. When I do that, don't lose the negative that's right there. I'm left with -2y equals, and again, I have a -x and a 4. I'm going to put the -x first because I always want my x value written first. This would probably be a good one to have in your notes. I'm going to divide by -2, but remember, when I divide one thing by -2, this gets divided by -2 and this gets divided by -2. In math, everything has to get it for it to be fair. When I do that, I've got y equals, that's great. Now, how would I write? You got to think about what's really in front of the 1 that's not there. I mean, I just said it. What's really between the negative sign and the x that's not written there? It's really a 1, right? So if I have -1 over -2, how would I write that fraction? Just 1 over 2. Right? And then the x goes in the normal x spot. And then +4 divided by -2 is -2. So when you're writing fractions for your slope, make sure you put them by themselves as a fraction. Don't squish, don't write it like this. Don't put this in your notes. Technically, that is correct, right? But don't write your x smushed in with the fraction. Okay, separate them out, write your fraction first, then put your generic x, then your slope, then your intercept. Okay. All right. We're getting close to done, guys. Hang with me. All right. We know we need an M and we know we need a B. These are the ones that take the most work. Okay. So I'm going to go through one really slow, take good notes, and then I'll go through one kind of fast. I'm not given an M or a B. But do I have the information from yesterday to find the M? When I'm given 2 points, right? I can find my own M. So I'm going to label X1, Y1, X2, Y2. I'm going to do what I did yesterday, and I'm going to find my own M. So I'm going to go M equals -2 minus a -5 over 5 minus 0. Okay, I'm plugging into my slope formula. Plus and plus, -2 plus 5 is +3. 5 minus 0 is 5. I found my own slope, so I'm going to come up here where my M is, and I'm going to write my slope. Now I'm kind of where I'm at up earlier in the paper. I have my slope, and I have 2 points. Does it matter which one I pick? They're both fair game because they're both points on the line. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick this one. So y equals mx plus b, the y I picked was -2, equals my m that I just found is 3/5. My x in the equation is a 5, and then plus b, that's what I'm trying to find. Okay, so -2 equals, when I multiply these two, the 5s cancel out, and I'm left with 3 plus b. I'm going to subtract 3 and subtract 3. And I get b equals -5. Now I have my b, I fill it in. Now I have what it takes. Y equals generic y equals m generic x plus b. Remember, when you go to write your actual final answer, go back to a generic x and a generic y. So this is the most work that you'll find in 5.2 because you're not given anything. You're not given your m or your b. You have to find them both, but you have the tools to do that. Okay, we good with that? You don't have to put this one in your notes. I'm going to run through this one a little bit fast. Okay, I'm going to find my m and I'm going to find my b. x1, y1, x2, y2. Finding my m first, I'm going to go 4 minus a -2. That's 4 minus 2 over -4 minus 5. That goes plus. So 6 plus 2, or 4 plus 2 is 6. Negative and negative is -9. I'm always reduce if you can. So my slope is going to be -2/3. Okay, that's my final slope, -2/3, all reduced. Nice. Now I'm going to pick either point. Doesn't matter which. I'll pick this one this time. You're going to get the exact same b either way. So I'm going to go y, which is -2. Equals the m I just found times my x, which is a 5, okay, plus b. -2 equals, when I take -2/3 times 5, I get -10/3 plus b. Okay, this one gets a little ugly because it's a fraction, but you're still going to do it the same. How could I rewrite 2 to have it give it a denominator of 3? What do you guys think? How could I rewrite this number right here so that it has a denominator of 3 so that I can easily start adding and subtracting these two? Yes. Yeah, make sure you keep the negative, but yes, -6/3 is the same as -2. Everybody got me there? -10/3 plus b. Now, when I add 10/3 and I add 10/3, I can get my b. B equals, okay, that's gone. -6 plus 10 is +4/3. Okay, that's my b. It looks ugly, but that's okay. 4/3 is my b. So my equation is y equals my m, generic x, plus 4/3. Okay. All right, the last thing I want to show you is it doesn't matter what form it's in. It doesn't even have to be in a recognizable form. The last two on your homework are just some random, it's not in a linear form, but you guys still know how to solve for a variable when it's hidden somewhere in an equation, right? What would your first thing do to get rid of here? What do you guys think? Yeah. You can -1/2. I would even, before I start moving anything, what could you get rid of? What's my favorite thing to get rid of first? Fractions. If I want to get rid of the fraction, all I have to do, multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2, this by 2, and this by 2. Okay, as long as I do it to all 4 terms here, fair game. 2x minus, these two cancels out, minus y. These two cancel out, plus 1. What's 0 times 2? 0. Now it looks a whole lot easier to get y by itself. Okay, I'm going to subtract the 2x and subtract the 2x. I'm going to do this in one step. I'm also going to subtract the 1 and subtract the 1. Okay, when I do that, I'm left with negative y equals, now on this side, I have a negative 2x that I'm going to write first. And then I have a 0 and a minus 1 that I can combine and write as 0 minus 1. And I almost have y by itself. What do I have to get off there? The negative. So I'm going to divide by a negative. But if I divide 1, I divide all 3 by a negative. And my final answer here is y equals positive 2x now and positive 1. So even when they're in some crazy order and nothing really makes sense, you can still get y by itself. Here, you don't have to put this in your notes. I'm just going to do it really quick. I want y on the left. So I'm going to add y and add y. When I add y to this side, I get y equals negative 1. That's fine. It's still a linear equation. What's missing? Anybody know? Yeah. Well, no, my x is missing. And we'll get, this is a special case. I don't even think you have any like this on your homework. This is a special case. It's a horizontal line. So you just have a 0 slope, but that's okay. But you still have y by itself, and that's all you have to worry about doing. Okay. All right. This is a 2-day assignment. So for those of you at home, this is not due until Thursday. So make sure and click load on Cami, show all your work, and email me if you have any questions.